tell you what, Keith, please, I hope you understand, but I want to stay on point this morning. I'm not talking about Biden. I'm not talking about Aspen, and I'm not talking about all the cars. I'm talking about America at war this morning, and you got to have respect for that. It's a very serious topic. It has nothing to do with the stupidity of Joe Biden. It has nothing to do with the excess in cars, but it has everything to do with our grandsons, our nephews, our nieces, and everybody else. So I'm staying on point, and I'm going to talk about the war that we're involved in this morning. I will take comments about that right now. Go ahead.
Yeah, the president, why don't he get permission from the Congress? I think that they would give it to him willingly, but it's just like they just said on the news. This is his big push for the Democratic Party to get reelected in November. It's finally he's got the courage.
I agree with you, and I think that this is a mess. If they're doing this for nothing more than just trying to garner votes for the Democrats with a show of force and power, I'm sickened by this. I am absolutely sickened. And Keith, I do appreciate your call this morning as usual. God bless you, my dear friend. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Caller, good morning. I'm going to ask you to wait, have a little patience. I've got to pay some bills here real quick, and I'll be right with you. And I want to remind everybody about Scott Gano Landscaping and Sprinkler Service, 336 South, 450 west of Paul. And if you've got sprinklers, already have sprinklers, call that number of 438-2485. Get on the list to blow your sprinklers off before they freeze and do damage for next year. I'll tell you what, this is one thing you must think about, you must do, and call Gano Landscaping and Sprinkler Service. One other thing, too, if you want your trees properly pruned, be sure and call them. All the fruit trees, ornamental trees, shade trees, everything, they can help you. Gano Landscaping and Sprinkler Service, 336 South, 450 west of Paul, 438-2485. Caller, good morning, you're on the air.
Morning, Zeb.
Yes, sir.
Hey, one of the things I want to throw out there on this whole ordeal, with him bombing Syria and those areas like that, what do you think the Muslims that are on the fence are going to do, knowing that their homeland and that is getting bombed and the people they know are getting bombed?
What do I think they're going to do? I think there's going to be a call to jihad. I think there's going to be many, many more people say that they're going to misuse and misrepresent the wording of the Quran. I think right now, Kiltman, that we are in one of the most dangerous situations we have ever been in the last 35 to 40 years. Many of the military experts, as a matter of fact, most of the military experts are saying that ground forces are needed to mop up and kill ISIS. And one general yesterday came right out and said Obama's plan, quote, does not have a snowball's chance in hell of working.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So, is this a plan to stir people up to get them on their cause? If he's bombing dead areas and stuff like that are, not really strategic to their cause, which I wouldn't put it past him, then what's going to happen? They're going to get some poor people that weren't involved into it, and this is going to blossom into a mushroom cloud.
Well, no, you know what you just said. It's going to blossom into, exactly as the Bible predicted, Armageddon. And I know there are those that are afraid to use that word, and there's those in the audience that are also afraid to mention the Bible and its prophecy. But let's call it what it is. We are being sucked into a huge problem in the Middle East. And honestly, if you want to know the truth, Jeff, and there's a lot of people that are going to laugh at me on this, I think this is a great big plan and plot to get the United States so strung out and get them in so deep that all of a sudden somebody's going to close the door and we are a memory.
Well, I agree. I mean, what happens is, all of a sudden they decide to put boots on the ground and they call up all the National Guards and that and make them, activate them and send them overseas. then who is here?
Yeah, I agree with you that this is a mess. I just absolutely am continually amazed as to how Obama can just show so much contempt for Congress and for our Constitution. And he waited until Congress was out of Washington, D.C. They were gone before he did these and started these preemptive airstrikes. I don't trust this man. I find him to be the most absolutely devious president that we've ever had.
That's exactly right. I think there's a reason and a purpose behind every move that this guy's made. Everybody says he's inept. I don't think so. I think that he is doing everything for a reason. Yeah, there's a reason behind his madness.
Think about this, Kilt, man. I mean, he starts this mess with the bombing and the airstrikes. And the generals are saying, hey, wait a minute, this isn't going to do any good. These guys with ISIS, they're going to go hole up someplace until we run out of money to keep buying these bombs, and then they're going to show up in force. You've got to have ground troops. And one general, to repeat what I said a little bit ago, there's not a snowball's chance in hell that his plan is going to work, Obama's plan. So these generals know the president has been nothing more than a community organizer. Do you feel safe with that?
I don't feel safe at all. The thing is, this has turned into another Vietnam. You know, this is a politically correct war. You can't fight a politically correct war. You either go in there and knock the snot out of everybody, or you just don't go in.
I agree, and the more I look at this thing, the more I think it's nothing more than filthy, dirty politics to show that the Democrats have got a backbone, to show that the Democrats have a more than better chance of remaining head of the Senate. I'm just really sick and tired of politics, bombs, and elections. That's what I'm sick of.
Well, the thing is we got checks and balances here. What is going on? How come hasn't somebody stepped up and stopped him?
I agree.
Period.
Kilt, man, I got to do a commercial break, and I got more calls. My friend, I thank you so much. Thank you. Caller, I'll be right with you. Don't go away. Want to remind everybody about Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Number to call, 678-0459. And they will, Deanne, could you take this call, please? And they will be waiting right there to see you and get your order for you at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. They're open 7:30 in the morning to 5:30 Monday through Friday. And don't forget, they're celebrating Hats Off to Farmers right now, where they really say to the farmers in the area, thank you for all you do. Come on in, get a bag of popcorn and a Coke, and throw that dirty old cap on the floor and get a brand new one. They're ready to serve you at Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. Also, I know another place that absolutely has everything for you, for the farm, the family, and the ranch, and that's Valleywide Home and Ranch at 910 South Oneida in Rupert. Mandy and everybody over there, hello, good morning. All their winter gloves are in. Keep your hands nice and warm, and they've got all the shop towels and the rags. And by the way, they have got a fantastic selection of Ariat boots for men and women. You better check it out. And they've also got 2 part-time positions opened up for an evening cashier and an evening warehouse man. So stop over and get an application at Valleywide Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. You stop in and see these people today. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Well, good morning, Jeff. Hey, your last caller was talking about they call up a regular army and deploy them, and they're at such a low number now, and so they'll have to call up and put National Guard on active duty service and deploy them. Well, we're not totally defenseless. We have how many hundreds of thousands of registered hunters, not to mention firearm owners, and we do know how to protect ourselves, and the sad thing is we may have to. And, I'm all for standing up for what I believe and what's right, but I'm afraid they're going to get our military strung out so far and wide that they'll pick them off one group at a time.
See, that's the point that I was making a little bit ago. When I say that we have been literally sucked in like a vacuum cleaner into the Middle East for more involvement here in Syria, over here, Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, you name it. We're being literally pushed and plotted into various locations until finally somebody's going to close the back door and say, gotcha.
You know, they've been battling each other over there in that area for thousands of years. What makes our president or anybody else think that we're going to stop them by dropping a few thousand bombs?
I couldn't agree.
The only people we need to worry about over there is Israel.
I agree.
Other than that,
I agree.
let them kill themselves off. It's kind of mean to say that, but they've been doing it, and they're not going to stop.
What do they export besides hate? Think about that. What do they export besides hate? They've got their oil. They know that because of a pathetic energy situation here in this country to where we could be self-reliant and be absolutely thumbing our nose at these camel jockeys, they only have oil to export. They don't export anything else. They are not advanced countries. And I am like you. I am saying to them, keep your oil. We'll advance ours, but not with this president, because he's absolutely devious when it comes to an energy program that's going to keep us self-reliant on ourselves. This is why we've got to get rid of this administration. We've got to get rid of a possible Hillary administration, and we've got to start governing ourselves with common sense.
If we would mine our own coal, drill our own oil, and export what we don't use, which would be a whole lot more than we could ever use, we'd put such a hurt and a cripple on that part of the world that they'd leave us alone.
I agree.
He wouldn't laugh at us anymore.
I agree. Riley, thank you very much for your call this morning. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley. What a great place to go eat. Oh, my goodness. I'll tell you what, we had a wonderful time over there last Thursday for Zeb's Lunch Bunch. It is delicious. Everything on the menu. I had a really hard time trying to figure out what I was going to have for lunch. Everything looks so good, and it is good. Whether you want breakfast, lunch, or dinner, just pick out what you want. You're going to love it. Denny's Restaurant with the best in service, and don't forget, too, seniors, they've got a special menu and a lot of discounts for you, too, at Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley, the home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch. Hey, caller, I'll be right there in a minute. Don't go away. I also want to remind everybody about Snyder's Surplus. It's not just an army and hunting supply store. No, they're located at 112 South 200 west of Rupert. They've got something for everyone. They've got, of course, guns and ammunition. They've got all the gun cases, but they've got all your desks, and they've got your chairs, your office chairs. They've even got bunk beds over there, and they've got a brand new store and brand new merchandise. Stop over, friendly service always at Snyder's Surplus, 112 South 200 west of Rupert. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zebra. Obama was born a Muslim. If your father's a Muslim, you're born a Muslim. He had 2 years of schooling in that area. I believe he has a soft spot for Muslims, and I believe he don't want to get his feet wet as far as getting in and fighting these people. I really wish we had somebody else in there, not Joe Biden, but I mean somebody who had some common sense.
You know, Carl, I sat there and watched the news last night, and I listened to some of the people that were touting Hillary for president. I listened to some of the young kids that were interviewed on man-on-the-street interviews, and I listened to some of the old-timers that were talking about be careful, be wary about getting back into war, and this whole decoupage of people and their concerns, and I came away with one thing. I think that people today, especially the younger generation, they are so comfortable in what was provided and given to them, they haven't got a clue as to how serious this situation is.
I do firmly believe that we should reinstate the draft. But then when I say that, I get people up in arms instantly.
Yeah.
We have to have people ready. So,
all right. Well,
2 years to live, 2 years of volunteers to work in or for the government is not too much to ask.
No, as a matter of fact, I totally agree with you, and I think we would have a much better sense of love and respect of country.
I do too. Thanks,
Carl. Always good to hear from you. Thank you, my dear friend. Thank you. Running a little bit late. We got to get on the Capital Press Ag Minute, and we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
The Capital Press Ag Minute is brought to you by OnlyAg.com.
4 conferences for farmers and food service personnel will be held around the state next year in an effort to increase the amount of local food being consumed in Idaho schools. The event will be supported by an $18,000 farm-to-school grant the Idaho State Department of Agriculture received from the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Food and Nutrition Service. This is the first year the SNS has awarded these farm-to-school conference and event grants, which were awarded specifically to help states conduct educational events for food service personnel and farmers. 3 workshops will be held around the state next summer to help support food service personnel and to incorporate more local food in their menus. With the Capital Press Ag Minute, this is Hannah Browse.
To receive instant, exclusive, unlimited access to the West Agricultural News Source, register your account today at CapitalPress.com.
Oh, thank you very much, and we appreciate the Capital Press and all they do. Great agricultural newspaper. Hey, don't forget our friends at Berry Equipment and Rental. They have got 3 locations around the valley to serve you, and of course you know in Twin Falls it's on Addison Avenue West. In Jerome it's on South Lincoln, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. They've got all the aerial man lifts, you know, from the nifty lifts. They've got all your equipment, like, of course, your Coyote tractors and your Doosan loaders, and you'd better stop in and just, whether you're looking to buy and or lease, they've got everything that you could possibly want at Berry Equipment and Rental. Plus the service of great mechanics and a great shop, and Nick and the rest of the crew in the Burley location always serving you. Addison Avenue West, Highway 30 in Burley, and South Lincoln and Jerome. Remember, it is Berry Equipment and Rental. Calls are welcome and appreciated at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. It is confirmed this morning that ISIS has a fairly large number of their terrorists here in this country that have come back into this country by using their passports as American citizens to come back after they have been trained over in the Middle East to bomb us, kill us, and maim us. I'm very concerned, folks, and I just don't understand what in the world we can do to protect ourselves, our families, our communities. They are afraid. Some of the experts have spoken out, including former New York Mayor Giuliani, and has said that they are very concerned about the lone wolf type attacks on us in the United States, on anyone, anywhere, anytime. Now, when you hear a report like that, and you're sitting on a talk show and you're going, holy smokes, somebody walking down the street in Burley, somebody walking down the street in Boise, somebody driving home late at night in Idaho Falls. Anybody and everybody may be susceptible to what these vermin want to do. And how do you protect yourself? How do you organize protection for yourself and your family, on your property, in your car, shopping at the mall? This is very concerning. And these people that are joining up with ISIS and getting this training and coming back, we don't know in a lot of cases where they are, who they are, because the government hasn't released any information. And why in the world would our government, and this is something I've got to ask Mike Crapo and others, why would they let these people back into this country? Why? If there's any kind of an FBI report as to how dangerous these people are and what they have done as far as any terrorist activities, why are they even allowed back into JFK or any other airport at all? Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. You know, they can attack us, and they'll get a few of us maybe. But we've got one right. We've got the right to protect ourselves and our families. And I think people in this country need to be carrying and making sure they're able to take care of, themselves and their family. In all kinds of wars, people die. And a lot of it's innocent people, the collateral damage, whatever you want to call it. But people need to remember we can defend ourselves. And they're no more human or no bigger or no meaner than we are.
Jerry,
they're just people.
I will say this. I've got to say this. That the anti-gun ownership crazies and kooks that want to denounce the NRA, that want to put us that want to protect our families and our property under the rug and away and out of sight. This time in our lives right now is even more of a reason to learn about gun safety, to learn about gun ownership, to get a concealed weapons permit, and know what to do in different situations. Because right now, the NRA has been right over the many, many years, and the government, they're saying, we'll protect you, we'll be there 24/7 to get any of the bad guys. That just ain't going to happen, Jerry.
Zeb, that's about the most stupid statement the government could ever make, or the police department. There are a limited number of people, and they're in a small area, and sometimes it's a long way from where they're at, where the problem is. Most people that are going to create a problem, they're looking where they can get away with it. They aren't going to do it right where the police can get there in 2 minutes.
Jerry, listen.
They've got a half hour or 45 minutes or longer to commit the crime. Criminals aren't stupid.
Jerry, just a minute. Jerry, just a minute.
And they can do.
Listen to this for a second, Jerry. Can you hear me? Listen, about this, I want to ask you a question. Oh, jeez.
So we ought to be armed and ready to try and take care of them and run them off.
Okay, can you hear me, Jerry, or am I not coming through?
I absolutely can.
Okay, good. Doesn't it make an absolutely frivolous and stupid mistake to this country and its citizens that our government will allow these people, these terrorists, to come back into this country, many of which have been trained to kill, maim, and bomb and destroy, and they have been said by supposed experts in our government that they have military weapons in New York, Texas, around the United States. They have military weapons, but you and I, if we go in and buy a .22, they survey us like we're a criminal.
Well, they're going after the wrong people. And the government is working for them. We've got, our borders are wide open. About half of them guys are, well, I won't say half of them, but a bunch of them that are coming through are nothing but terrorists. They're here raping our people, robbing our banks, stealing our stuff from our stores. They're stealing stuff from our government by being on welfare and, taking advantage of the people every way they can to stay here. And they're not legal. And our government is making it to where the criminal is the best person in the world, and the people that are law-abiding, work hard, and do the best they can are the criminal.
I agree, Jerry, and I appreciate your call. Thank you so much this morning, and my best to you and your wife and family. Thank you very much.
May the Lord bless you and your audience. keep on keeping on.
All right, Jerry, thank you very much. Hey, don't forget Sophie's Chatterbox. They've got a bakery over there at 530 East Street on the square in Rupert. Oh, my goodness. They can make all the wedding cakes, and they can make the cookie bars and the homemade bread and the delicious cinnamon rolls. Oh, those cinnamon rolls are absolutely fantastic. Just call her at 436-0354. 436-0354, Sophie's Chatterbox. And don't forget, you can stop over there and have breakfast, lunch, or supper, too, at Sophie's Chatterbox on the square in Rupert. Really, really good. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I just don't understand this president. I have no respect for him. I look at him out of the corner of my eye and I wonder really what is the game plan here. He waited till Congress is basically not in session. He orders the airstrikes. He's gone against the Constitution and Congress, showing a contempt for both. And I looked this up, and I heard others say, too, he is the first president ever to repeatedly use the military without congressional consent. What is he trying to do? Now, I know that he did call John Boehner yesterday. I believe it was in the early evening of last night, prior to having these airstrikes. Hello, John. This is Brock. We're going to start the bombing. I know that you can't do anything about it. That's tough. Goodbye. See you tomorrow. And we need ground forces. The generals are sitting there tearing their hair out, many of which don't have a lot of hair left to tear out. And these people that have done this for a living, of becoming four-star generals and understanding how to wage and fight a war, have said this is not going to work. ISIS will go and hide in a cave. They'll go hide here, there, and everywhere until we're done with all this bombing, and then come out and then, Katie, bar the door. They said, again, I'm going to repeat, one general in particular said Obama's plan doesn't have a snowball's chance in hell of working. These are generals that know. The president is a former community organizer. Who are you going to put your trust in? Think about that. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call. Another story this morning that is really, really serious. And this is all the kooks and the crazies that are really jumping up in the air, advocating that we're going to burn up through global warming. There's been many, many stories lately, and one, of course, was in the Times News this morning, and they showed kind of a mass picture of supposedly 500,000 people marching in New York City yesterday and saying that the world can't wait anymore. We've got to have more on global warming. Why? We've got to slow the heating of the planet, and we've got to stop people from driving cars. We've got to stop people from using electricity. We've got to stop people from doing anything with energy so we can save the planet. Now, anybody with half a brain or any kind of common sense is going to sit there and go, gee, okay, if we stop driving, we don't go to work, our kids don't go to school, our economy is going to go pop, and everybody is going to be basically not doing anything, okay? If we don't have any way of keeping warm, we're going to freeze to death. And we can't all just jump in your neighbor's van and head down to Tallahassee, Florida and live on the beach. These people are crackpots and crazies. But you know what? governments are leaning their way. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Jeff. It's me again. I've seen this too, what you're talking about. And I got to thinking, I have seen more common sense than a herd of sheep going down the road in the desert than I did seeing in the streets of New York City. For how many of them drove there in their own car? And from what I understand, there were some celebrities there that flew in on private jets and had limousines drop them off. How much more hypocritical can you be?
I'm going to say this, that this morning at 9:30, if you get an opportunity, do not miss. I'm going to have James Taylor with the Heartland Institute in Chicago, Illinois on our program. And James and the rest of his staff have been following this story in New York, and it's going to go to the UN this morning. And there's going to be appeals from the new UN various emissaries. Oh, we've got to save the planet. The United States, you've got to back off. Nobody drive their cars anymore. Nobody heat their homes. Oh, we're burning up. And these are liars, frauds, and charlatans. And I'll tell you why. Because the earth has been cooling for over the last 17 and a half years. And this nonsense about how the polar ice caps are melting, no. There's new ice in the polar ice caps. And that didn't just happen overnight. It's been happening because of a cooling trend for the last 17 years. These hypocrites and these know-nothings that are advocating global warming want one thing, and they want to bring you and I down to our knees.
Well, they want our money. They want every which way they can to find a way to worm every last dime and nickel out of everybody on the planet. They want everybody to be subservient to them, and I'm just too dang stubborn. So
there you go.
I
thank you for your call. Thank you very much. I've got to do the weather. Holy smokes, we got to roll in here, and I forgot to do the weather. And the weather is brought to you this hour by our friends at Mad River Laser. Nicole is so talented. They've got all the promotional items for your business, whether it's aprons. By the way, if you want some custom-made aprons made, they were $12.99. Now they're just $10 if you mention my name, Zeb. They've got all the caps, all the water bottles, all the pens, all the buck knives. And buck knives. I love buck knives. And if you go in and buy a buck knife for hunting season and mention my name, they'll engrave it free. That's right, sweatshirts, T-shirts, everything. You just go in and stop in and check it out at their new location, 502 East Street in Rupert, Mad River Laser. Here now, Michael Rogers weather.
Oh, everyone, Michael Rogers was there, but the rain's got a nice day for it today. In fact, you're going to be nice until Friday, and I make that Thursday, and you got rain. The forecast is going to carry into the weekend. So, we're working our way towards the middle of the week, and things are going to be rather nice. Thank you very much. 86 for the high today, 56 for the overnight low. For the weather, still with you guys.
All right, thank you very much, Michael Rogers. Weather.com, and it's brought to you this hour by Mad River Laser, 502 East Street in Rupert. Really nice folks. All right, give us a call, 436-2244-1866-927-4587. I am not kidding you. When you look at this picture that's in the Times News this morning of these people that congregated for this march, and they claim there's 500,000 people walking down the streets of New York on 58th Street. Look closely at all the people that are in that picture. And you will find very, very few, if any, of those people are probably not over 30 years of age. These are people that have never done anything with their lives, probably don't have families, probably haven't had to raise kids, probably haven't had to meet their bill obligations per month. Look at them. These are mostly very young people, naive and stupid to the ways of the world. Good morning, you're on the air.
Yes, would that be me?
You're on, sir. Go ahead.
All right. The situation is such, and in accordance with our laws and so forth, which the so-called president has no regard for. All right, we can talk all we want. why are we not putting the pressure on our senators and representatives to file an impeachment process against this person and get him out and stop his political wrecking of our God bless the United States?
Sir,
now answer me that.
No.
We're putting pressure on them.
I'm 110% on your side. I absolutely, and you've heard me on the air when I've talked to Crapo, when I've talked to Risch, and I've talked to others, and I have said absolutely we need to go after this man. He is absolutely bent against the Constitution and also Congress. I'm on your side. I have no use for Barack Hussein Obama.
Absolutely correct, and we've got two senators that have seniority, and if they aren't going to use it, I like them both. But if they aren't going to use it and fight this guy on his own, on our law-abiding terms, then they're going to have to go.
Let me ask you a question.
I'm sorry, but that's the way it works.
No, I agree with you, but let me ask you a quick question. You've heard me on this program, and you listen.
I can barely hear you, Zeb.
I'm sorry. They're going to have to do something at the station to change some things.
Right.
Hold on just a second.
We can't start next year and next year and next year. And we got all these liberals and that on each side of the coast that don't know anything about politics. They're reelected, the worthless idiot. I call him an idiot, but he's dumb like a fox. He's already proven that. He's got a plan to put the United States into a third, fourth, fifth world country and turn us into nothing more than huts and dung-dew fires. So,
I agree.
Let's get together. Get the people responsible, and that's Congress. He don't go through them, and our congressmen are smart enough to kind of figure that out on their own.
That's kind of a ambiguous and rhetorical question.
You can't legally do anything else. I won't even talk about other ways of doing it, but because that isn't our way.
All right, sir. I appreciate your call.
Let's get our congressmen off their butts and get going on this now.
I appreciate it. God bless you for your call. I always appreciate hearing from you. Thank you very much. All right, sir. We'll take some more calls in just a moment. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. To some of the callers that are having a hard time hearing me, we're working through this, trying to make a little transition here, and we'll get this fixed, hopefully. But bear with us. And don't forget, too, I want to talk to you right now about your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you. And they're having a big tire sale going on right now with the Terramax HT on sale, Eclipse Tire on sale, Ultra Z900 on sale, Open Country AT2 on sale. Man, I'll tell you what, the best tire value promise in the industry: free peace of mind tire protection and lifetime tire and mileage care. They've got a lot of their custom wheels on sale. They've got the best in brake service, front end alignment, shocks and struts, batteries, you name it, it's right there at all 7 locations of your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. You stop in and see Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, John on Poline and Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. The best. All right, calls are welcome. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give us a call on the landline. Again, going through this. Whoop, there's a call. Good morning, caller. Sorry to keep you waiting. Good morning.
That's okay, Dave. With regards to that last caller, He's right. We should get to Congress and not do something. But you got Boehner, no guts. You can't do anything with Boehner to pass to the Senate because you got Harry Reid to block it all. You got a vice president, which is worthless. You got a president should have been impeached 3 years ago. So you're just batting your head against the wall.
Al, you and I have talked about this on the air quite a bit, and I just don't understand why politicians, they get on this program or any program, and they say, I did this, I've done that. I don't care about the I. I want people to say that I've joined a coalition with some senators from Colorado, New Mexico, Wisconsin, whatever, and we're trying to really push for this. It takes teamwork and it takes power. It doesn't take the holy I.
Yeah, I get them letters once in a while, especially from Simpson, about this and that, he done that.
Yeah.
And I replied to him once and said, it's a bunch of damn lies, don't send me no more letters. I haven't received one now in a year.
Hey, let me ask you a question real quick. If you read this story this morning, these kooks and crackpots that we make fun of as far as being the global warming crowd, these people scare me because they want to stop any and all gas or coal-generated electricity. They want to stop driving cars. They want to stop the shipping of packages or flying around the globe. They want to stop everything so that you and Polly and me and Deanne can just live in a cave and burn buffalo dung. Aren't you excited?
Not really, because look at the big mess they left. That shows what kind of people they are. They're hypocrites, two-faced, and they're a bunch of damn liars.
I agree with you, Al. Thank you very much. Appreciate your call. Thank you.
Have a good one.
I'm really looking forward to having James Taylor with the Heartland Institute on our program at 9:30 and talking about this big movement in New York City today with the leaders of the various countries coming in to push for us, the United States, to do more to stop the world from burning up. Ay, ay, ay. We're going to take a little break, and coming up next hour, we're going to be talking about James Herson is an attorney from California, and boy, there's another big scare to be worrying about, that Hollywood might all of a sudden, it's gone. Yeah, Hollywood and the movie-making industry, and it might be because China is taking over that part of the entertainment in the industry. And then at 9:30, James Taylor with global warming, 10:06, Dr. History, and then at 10:30 this morning, Attorney Grant Gerber. Got a lot to do. Stay tuned. Oh, my. Welcome back. Hour number 2. Zeb at the Ranch for this morning. Glad to have you aboard, and thank you very much, as we're brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And, of course, let's not forget some of our great advertisers like Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland and Burley, and our friends at Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. And don't forget, they've got the dumpsters in various sizes. All you have to do is just call and say, hey, I need a dumpster. I'm going to be cleaning out the basement, or I'm going to be cleaning out the back porch, whatever. And they'll make sure you get a dumpster, fill it up, and they'll come get it for you. You better believe it. Always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, 734-6969. You be sure and give them a call today. Gina, whatever we turn down lower, come back with it, because now I'm very, very hard to hear anything. Also, I want to remind everybody about our friends at Hanson Mortuary. Hello, Joel Heward. What a nice person, the manager of Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert. This is a family place, and they really have flexible hours, and they are there when you need them. When a loved one passed away, you want to make sure that you can get help like that. 436 436-5636. Give them a call, and they can help you with all the arrangements. Please, always with the highest ethical standards, with unquestioned integrity, and that's Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. That number again, 436-5636. We're going to go to the phone line right now, and I'm always very, very entertained and informed when this man's on the program, because he has a lot of information about what's going on in the entertainment world. And right now, I'm going to just kind of ask him a ballpark question. Attorney James Herson, excellent writer, attorney, etc. Is Hollywood possibly going to see their demise because of China?
Well, certainly it's part of the future of Hollywood's demise, and it has a big impact on the American financial system, because what you're talking about, what I've written about, is this new IPO, this new largest now company ever to be listed in any stock market in the world, Alibaba, who most people hadn't even heard of just a few weeks ago. And we have to understand a few things about this. First of all, people in Hollywood have long been dealing with China, ignoring sort of the elephant in the room, and that is that the Communist Party still exists and controls China.
Right.
China is not a free country. And here's something that illustrates it. Alibaba, which is kind of, people describe it as China's version of Amazon and eBay combined, is very different than American internet companies. You know, one of the things the internet is known for is being free. If I want something, I need to buy it. Almost anything you can think of, you search for it, and there it is. So for good or for bad, you can buy it. Not so at Alibaba. Alibaba is partially controlled and owned by the Chinese government, and you cannot buy anything dealing with Tiananmen Square, any books, any films that the Chinese government finds offensive. There was a film in 1997 that Brad Pitt starred in called 7 Years in Tibet. You can't find it on Alibaba. And also, this strange investment that institutional money, pension money, all kinds of money went for this, to the tune of $8 or $9 billion or something. It's not really a company in the traditional way we know of it, because Chinese law forbids any foreigner from owning stock in the real Alibaba. So what they did is they set up a new entity in the Cayman Islands, and they're calling it a variable interest entity. This new company has a contract, an agreement to share in the profit of Alibaba. That's a shaky situation, and it also means that all the shareholders who lined up to pay money for Alibaba have no say in the management whatsoever. They can have shareholders meetings, I suppose, but it'll only be dealing with a Cayman Islands company that has the right to a contract. It's a very strange situation, and it seems like what's happening, similar to Hollywood, is, they're blinding their eyes, looking at the potential of the China market and going for the money. Alibaba was successful, as I said, and we've seen these other digital companies, Amazon, Netflix, Hulu Plus, YouTube, basically sort of invade Hollywood and change the face of the delivery system of film and television. But now this guy that built Alibaba, his name is Jack Ma. He is a film buff. He wants to enter into Hollywood, and he's got more money than any of them, is bigger than any of them, and Hollywood covets getting into the China market. This company, Alibaba, has more influence and clout than anything that's hit the streets in Hollywood. and we're talking about the pop culture being influenced by effectively an arm of the Chinese government.
Let me ask you this, James. What, my audience and myself, average Americans, what should their concern be about Alibaba and what they're trying to take over? And why should we be concerned? What is the reason that it should be of any nature of us as to whether or not they're huge or not?
Well, the first thing is to acknowledge that when we look at the media now, it's a seamless media. And I've argued for years that what we call the entertainment media and what we call the news media are fusing. You know, it's difficult to discern which is which. Young people get their news information from entertainment shows that are on Comedy Central, like Jon Stewart's show. And news is made into movies for agenda purposes. And the entertainment media as a whole, when you look at film, television, the internet, music, has the biggest effect on beliefs and attitudes of anything else. So if somebody gets a foothold in Hollywood, and leaders from around the world knew this, which is why, for example, Joseph Stalin was obsessed with Hollywood to the point where he put a hit on John Wayne. They realized, always have realized the power of entertainment propaganda. So if you look at what Alibaba has done, one of the things they did this year is they acquired a controlling interest, a 60% interest in a company called China Vision Media. Now, this is another Chinese company. They paid more than $750 million for that. And then as soon as they got it, they changed the name to Alibaba Pictures. Alibaba Pictures sounds like a Hollywood company. Then they put a big Hollywood celebrity, Jet Li, son of Bruce Lee, on the board. And they've started talking to a number of entertainment companies. And of course, with China's box office about to hit $5 billion a year and eventually moving towards the largest box office for movies in the world, a new paradigm, because the United States was always the largest box office in the world. That Hollywood executives and infrastructure knows this, and so they are opening the doors wide to Jack Ma and his company, and maybe too wide.
And when you say this, James, I'm starting to hear in the tone of your voice the great concern that they've kind of opened the door and they've let the guard dog in, and now that the dog's in the room, he might bite him and take over everything. And once they have that total control of not only entertainment and also our news, thoughts and deeds of our public, the American public, could be controlled by somebody in China. Is that kind of far-fetched?
Well, at least in part, it's not far-fetched. In part, it's not. And as a matter of fact, in part, it's already happened. We already see movies and scripts and in television shows, but mostly in film that's going to be exported for this large box office in China, changed to please the Chinese government. One I think we've even discussed on your show, there was a remake of the film Red Dawn,
right,
which involves, young people resisting an invasion of the United States. And in the remake, the original bad guys were Chinese communists. And not after it was written, but after it was already filmed, the studio got wind from some consultant in China, said, hey, the Chinese government won't like this movie. They went back in and digitally altered the movie and reshot some of the scenes to make the bad guys North Koreans, so that they could please the Chinese government. Now, that's not a huge change in content, but that's sort of, the camel's nose under the tent, and it just starts that way. And we've seen, how the media, entertainment media, news media being left of center has changed attitudes in this country on a host of issues. They've changed the language. They've changed definitions of institutions, and they've been able to shape, particularly you can see it in the polling of attitudes of young people who have been manipulated by the media. If that manipulation moves farther left and moves in, the direction of the Chinese government, I do think it's a concern.
James, money talks, and you know what walks. And if these guys like Jack Ma and others with Alibaba, and I think their box office, according to the story you sent me, hit about $5 billion with a B last year, who's to say that everybody in Hollywood won't cave just for the almighty dollar? And who's going to try to fight this?
Well, I think the thing is that Hollywood even may not have much of a choice in terms of whether they cave or don't cave. When you, for example, if you look at the pattern of, like Netflix, Netflix just took Hollywood stars, Hollywood writers, directors, and said, we're just going to become a television studio. And so they produced House of Cards, followed by a remake of Arrested Development, the Fox series, a number of others, and now this Orange is the New Black, and they won a bunch of Emmys, and they're delivering it strictly on the Internet. And when you think of Alibaba, which now is the largest Internet company in the world, depending upon what kind of strategy they choose, and now they've bought a company and called it Alibaba Pictures. I think initially, just with streaming, they can change the face of entertainment and content production depending upon, where they approach it. They're approaching it now. You said, money talks. They and one of their partners is talking to some of the biggest studios in Hollywood, and most of these deals are finance-oriented. But the way it works in Hollywood is when you say that money talks, money enables companies and individuals to get into decision-making and green-lighting. And once they're into that, it's just a step from becoming an executive producer to eventually becoming a producer. And so there's a number of studios now that are co-producing with Chinese companies in order to have a leg up to get around the quota that is basically placed on money, on entertainment product that's being exported to China, so that they can get around that export restriction by having a co-owner of a Chinese company. And Alibaba Pictures is poised to be able to do those kinds of co-production deals.
Jim, would this possibly, maybe I'm not looking at this correctly, but if they can do this through entertainment, what about the news? What about the CNNs, and what about the Foxes, and what about the MSNBCs? Can they also eventually control the content of the news with a single type deed from like Alibaba at the head?
Well, I don't think they can, at this juncture, they can't control all of the news. The news, as you know, we've lived under controlled news now for quite a while.
Right,
if you think about, other than Fox, with ABC, CBS, NBC News, it's all uniform. It's all left of center. The New York Times, the Boston Globe, the Washington Post, LA Times, all left of center. And we've had distorted news. We've had stories left out of the news. We've had facts and science left out of the news, while people who, from Heartland America are called science deniers. And so we've seen, for example, Al Gore sell his current TV to Al Jazeera, which has a foreign perspective, is very soft on terrorist groups and terrorism in general, and is against Israel. And So we've seen news infiltrated by acquisition of offshore companies, and Alibaba has the money. They haven't expressed, a public interest in acquiring a news media company, but they have expressed a public interest in entertainment. But to me, it's becoming so seamless, it just would be a short step for them to start getting into, say, for example, TMZ style news or, some other style news in the West. And we just, with the lack of antitrust enforcement, with the consolidation of media, and with them just with their deep pockets and the way they're able to acquire things, we just have to keep our eyes open.
When I'm sitting here listening to you, and I'm trying to research in my mind some of the old movies, like the Ten Commandments, or stories about the Civil War, or stories about the Alamo, Texas independence. They could really change things and alter the gist of the story so that it would be slanted against the United States in our history books, and also the values of our country.
Really, and that's not an outlandish idea, because it's already happening. It's happening in our grade schools and the public schools. It's happening, in altering and revising history constantly. And look, this guy, Jack Ma, built in China what is almost a monopoly online. And this is in a country with central planning. So there's no way that he could have built up this massive company without the Chinese regime allowing him to. And that's why Jack Ma, cooperates with the regime and follows their dictates when it comes to censorship, follows their dictates, when it comes to his approach to business. Mm-hmm. He kind of speaks in the way that Jeff Bezos does. He wants his company to be the everything company, to sell everything, like Amazon seems to have that kind of goal. But his benefactors in Beijing have allowed him to exist, and he shows the ability essentially to bow to them. In China, they have no respect for intellectual property. They seem to have this institutionalized lack of transparency. I know we see that now here in this country. Mm-hmm. And they censor freely. They censor the internet. They censor all news, and they censor their entertainment. And Alibaba, that's the culture they come from. So that's the culture. So it's almost as if the West is hypnotized by the potential of the Chinese market, to the point where financial people have flocked with this huge amount of institutional money to buy what is in essence this fake company that was set up in the Cayman Islands that just has a measly contractual right to the profit of Alibaba, and that has become the biggest stock market listing in the world. And then Hollywood's major studios are engaged in discussion with this company, and they're all ignoring this shadow in the background that we don't know what direction it's going to go. I mean, everyone's hoping that if enough people in China eat Big Macs, that they'll become capitalists. But that may or may not happen. Hong Kong is going the wrong direction right now because China is increasingly moving in controls in Hong Kong, which has traditionally been a very libertarian laboratory. And so it's almost as if there are two forces in China, and we don't know which one will come out the winner.
Very interesting story, and very well said by Newsmax Hollywood reporter and legal analyst and our friend on this program, James Herson. James, God bless, and I'll look forward to having you back in the future. Thank you for a very interesting report.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Zeb. You have a wonderful day.
Thank you, sir. I really enjoy having Jim on our program. James Herson from Hollywood, and talking about China taking over now possibly and controlling the entertainment industry. I mean, really controlling all of the movies and television programs and possibly even the news. Wow. Hey, let's not forget about our friends at Let's Ride Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley. Oh, my. I said the other day I was talking about snow machines. And so I had a call later in the afternoon. They said, what did you say? We don't want to think about snow. Well, it's time to think about snow. Winter is, quite frankly, just around the corner. What is this, the second day of fall right now? And pretty soon that angel dandruff is going to be falling on the hillsides, and you're going to want to get your snowmobile and head for the hills. Well, I'll tell you what, they have all your snowmobile needs over there at Let's Ride. You better believe it. They've got brand new snow machines coming in every day, and a lot of them are already in stock, so check it out. Oh, and by the way, now's the time, too, to watercraft winterize. Make sure that everything is all set for your watercraft. Don't put it off. And they've got all your four-wheelers, all your ATVs. They've got everything and all the accessories. Really nice people at Let's Ride, where the fun is sold, Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley. You stop in and see those good folks today. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to have to go in for a hearing exam here pretty soon as what I've been having in my headsets the last couple of days. Boom, boom, boom. Well, I'll tell you what, Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids with Christine Pickup, Doctor of Audiology, at 1218 9th Street, Unit 2, right behind the Minidoka Hospital. She's right across from the emergency room. You can't miss it. And the number to call for a hearing exam or to talk to her about hearing problems is 312-0957. That number again, 312-0957. So check it out today. Did you hear that? Well, I'll tell you, Christine Pickup can help you if you have hearing problems at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, 312-0957. That is a very nice lady and very, very good business. You need to check that out, Mount Harrison Audiology. And like I said, the way things have been the last couple of days, I'm going to have to go check that out. Also, I want to remind you, too, about Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. They're having a harvest of savings right now, and they've got all the mattresses at prices that you can't afford to pass up. I mean, right now at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley. And window coverings to keep the heat out, 30 to 40% off. I'm not kidding you. And all the power recliners. And they've got a great set of the other recliners. Oh my goodness, all your carpeting needs, everything right there for the beautification and comfort of your home at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. 459 Overland in Burley. You stop in and see them today. I have been looking forward to this next interview for quite some time, and cannot wait to hear what he says is going on, not only in New York at the United Nations, but also across the United States and the world for that matter. We're very fortunate to have with the Heartland Institute, James Taylor, and good morning, sir. How are you?
Doing very well. Thank you for having me on.
James, I'm going to say right up front, I'm very blunt. You've been on my program before. I have never believed in global warming. I have never believed that we have to go live in a cave and burn buffalo dung to appease the Al Gores of the world. I have never believed that the earth is actually nothing more than in a cyclical process of cooling and or heating, and I believe we're in a cooling pattern right now. And I believe that if these kooks and crackpots that are in New York City to the tune of over 500,000 marching yesterday telling me that I have to get rid of my car, telling me that I can't ship a package FedEx, or telling me that I can't do anything to stay warm in my home, I'm very concerned. What's happening with the global warming crowd right now?
Well, if we want to talk about the crowd, let me first ask you this. Are you familiar with the Chevy Suburban?
Very much so.
Okay. Among SUVs, it is about as large as it gets. So we talk about the global warming crowd. Al Gore, who tells everyone else that they need to reduce their carbon footprint, live in smaller houses, cut their energy use, demonize big oil, etc., is whisked away from the climate march in a Chevy Suburban. This is what we have to deal with. Folks who say one thing because they have their own agendas, their own ways to profit off of this ginned up alarm, and yet at the same time, for them, they're perfectly fine driving away in Chevy Suburbans and using as much energy as they want. And when you see that, it should tell you about the sincerity, or really the lack of sincerity, among the organizers, or among the climate march's organizers.
James, you are extremely articulate and very knowledgeable about what really is going on in the climate. And one of the statements that these people make, including an op-ed editor for our local newspaper, saying 97% of all climate scientists believe that we're going to die because we're burning up. I don't buy that. I think it's a fraud statement. What are your thoughts on that?
You know, whenever you hear somebody use the 97% argument, then you immediately know that they are either, one, woefully uninformed, or they are, two, deliberately misleading on the issue. Because the only surveys that come anywhere close to 97% have asked two simple questions. One, has the Earth warmed in the past 100 years? And the answer is obviously yes. We're no longer in the Little Ice Age. Nobody disputes that. And the second part of the question is, have humans played some role? Well, I'll tell you that humans have played some role. The real issues in the global warming debate, now almost all skeptics say that humans have played some role. The real issues are, how fast are we warming? How much are we likely to warm in the future? What are the consequences? Do we need to act? So what happens is, you get this, quote, 97% consensus, of which I am a part, and then people mischaracterize that to say 97% of the world's scientists say we need to act right now, we're facing a crisis. No, we don't. It's kind of like asking people, do you believe that we should have better health care in this country? And 97% of the people would probably say yes. And then it'd be like those people saying, see, 97% of the people in this country support Obamacare. That's not at all what you asked. So whenever you hear this 97%, understand they're either woefully ignorant or deliberately misleading about the facts.
Let me ask you this, James, and again, I really appreciate your knowledge on this. What do they want? What do they want of me? Do they want my wife and I to sell all of our possessions and leave the pellet stove off, leave the pickup and the car out in the driveway, and get on our four-wheelers and go find a cave up in the South Mountains and start burning buffalo dung? What do they want?
Well, that's a great question, and the answer is very difficult because they implies that there is some unifying force, but there really isn't, other than just extremism from various sources. For example, at the climate march yesterday, there was an organized group of people chanting "F the police." There was another group of people who were carrying around signs for world socialism. There were, a variety of different causes that had little or nothing to do with climate, along with the climate activists. Even among the climate activists, there are different factions. You have some folks who honestly look at the science and believe that we're facing a crisis. I don't think the science leads us there, but some people honestly feel that. Others, however, environmental activists, 15 years ago, before this became a large movement, they had these very public conversations saying we need to find some unifying global cause that will make us relevant again. Because all of the things that we talked about 15, 20, 30 years ago for being environmental crises, they've all been solved or have gone away. So this is something that they've ginned up. Others, like Al Gore, look to have more influence after losing his presidential election and otherwise fading into obscurity. Others see an opportunity to make money. Some people find an opportunity for fame. Many of these scientists at government research institutions realize this is a way they can, one, ensure that grants keep coming, and two, become prominent, become rock stars among the media. So there's a lot going on here in terms of motivation.
Let me ask you this. When you talk about the United States of America, you're talking about a country that relies on individuality. They rely on rugged self-preservation. They rely on people being able to do unto themselves. They rely on the private entrepreneurs. Without an energy program, James, that's all gone. What are we going to do?
Yeah, and I think that the energy program we need is called the free market. I don't even think we need to micromanage so much as many people say we do. If we'll just take the government shackles off of free enterprise and entrepreneurs, we'll do quite fine. The problem is we have folks in this administration who believe that the solution to all of our problems is expensive, difficult to obtain energy. President Obama's initial energy secretary, Stephen Chu, said that we need gasoline prices that would be approximately double what they are. Also, his science advisor, John Holdren, said the same thing many times. Obama himself, to the San Francisco Chronicle's board of editorial board, in 2008, said that by his energy plan, electricity prices would necessarily skyrocket. They see consumption as bad. They see a growing economy as bad. They think that the only way that we can have a better society is to consume less, produce less, and live like we did 100 years ago. I think that's very dangerous for human health, welfare, and life enjoyment.
Okay, now, James, they want, and I'm kind of paraphrasing here because you're the expert on this, but they want to really push for a carbon tax. They want a carbon tax credit card or whatever. Oh, Zeb Bell, you drove to the grocery store twice this week. Oh, Zeb, you took your horses over to a rodeo arena and went roping. Why, we've got to tax you on this. Are they going to set limits possibly in the future on what we can use as far as energy is concerned?
Oh, they would love to do so, and I'm glad that you brought up the carbon tax because that's something we need to really take a close look at in terms of the tactics being used by the carbon tax proponents. They say, well, all you free marketers, this is a way that we are going to internalize the cost. This is setting up a market. This is something that you should be supporting. Well, what they're really doing is this. They're having the EPA restrict as much as possible our carbon dioxide emissions, as much as possible. Then what they can't get through the EPA, they say what little is left, what little EPA cannot justify, even according to the extremely broad powers they have, then we're going to tax on top of that. And oh, by the way, we're not going to tax other forms, other sources of energy that also carry severe environmental consequences. For example, the wind turbines that, while producing just 3% of our electricity, kill 1.4 million birds and bats every year. There's no tax on that. So it's basically we're going to take, without any compensation, as much as we can. We're going to restrict as much as we can. And what we can't get that way, then we're going to tax you for. This is not a market system. It's not internalizing the cost. It's totally inconsistent with free market principles.
How do we fight these people, James? I noticed this last week, and I'm sure as well as you are up on things, you probably caught this. There was an additional supplement in USA Today magazine, or pardon me, newspaper last week in the form of a magazine, and it had on the front cover Julia Louis-Dreyfus, the actress, and it was a magazine insert called Climate Change. Everybody's going after climate change bandwagon. How do we fight this?
Well, we fight it the way you're fighting it right now, by getting the word out. If this were 1975 and the only access to news and information people had were the three major networks and some newspapers, the truth wouldn't get out. But now we have the internet, we have cable television, we have talk radio throughout the country. People can access the data for themselves. When some people try to claim there's a 97% consensus, they can listen to you and me talk about it. They can go look up the alleged surveys themselves, and they can get the truth. And that's the reason why, although it certainly feels like we're fighting an uphill battle, and indeed we are. We're fighting an uphill battle against the media, against the present administration, against government. The fact of the matter is, motivated citizenry can keep government in check. And that's what's happening right now. Poll after poll shows it all. Though people are somewhat concerned about global warming, the majority of people do not support the type of jumping over the cliff actions that the global warming activists say that we need to do, because they realize it's right now the scientific case for it is fairly weak. Sure, let's keep an eye on it, but this is not something we need to be selling out our economy, our standard of living, our enjoyment of life in order to quote-unquote solve.
James, when I looked at this picture in the paper this morning, and this was kind of a rough overview of the people that were in that, they say, 500,000 person march in New York City to combat climate change. I took a little bit of a microscopic look at these people up close and personal, and it's really hard to find anybody under 30, or over 30, I should say, in this audience. Is this a generational thing to be involved in the climate change, or is it something that is being indoctrinated through the school system for them to believe as almost the Holy Grail?
Well, I think we have a history in this nation of the younger generation being idealistic, accepting what the left says at face value without investigating it or without suffering under the real-world consequences for this. And I think that might explain why you have many younger people involved. Also, we have the failure of the Obama economy over the past 6 years. It means people that have graduated from college or high school in the past 6 years and can't find much for work, they're going to be disenchanted as well. Mm-hmm. Regarding the so-called 500,000, it's funny how the organizers, before the march itself, threw out numbers like 400,000, and then very coincidentally, they say, oh, the number was just what we said. It was 400,000, 500,000, and most of the media is just reporting that without any critical inquiry. However, you do have some, and I'm not talking right-wing websites, but we're talking mainstream media that have put the number at the tens of thousands, not even 100,000. And by the way, with that much smaller crowd than reported, I don't know if you've seen this, but people who are listening should Google search the term climate march and trash. For people that seem to care or claim to care so much about the environment, they sure did leave a lot of trash around New York City. Compare that to when you had the Tea Party folks that went to Washington, D.C. and the National Mall and cleaned up after themselves quite well.
Absolutely well put. One final thought here this morning. What do you think is going to happen at the United Nations? What do you think they're going to push for, and how serious are they going to be to try to stifle not only us, but also India and China?
Well, this is just a lot of posturing. Keep in mind that of the 5 nations emitting the most carbon dioxide, only one has their leader at the conference. That's the United States with Barack Obama. What we have right now is an agenda where the developing nations of the world, who are responsible for essentially all of the carbon dioxide emissions growth, not that it's a bad thing, but if we assume for the sake of argument that it is, the nations that are responsible for all the increase are demanding $100 billion in climate payoffs, allegedly for the harm that we're doing to them. This is just preposterous. Even if we were to assume for the sake of argument that global warming has been bad, we know for a fact that as the climate has warmed, we have greater crop production, a decline in extreme weather, etc. The fault does not lie with the United States, where our emissions have declined this century. So, and as you mentioned before, other nations such as China emits more carbon dioxide than every nation in the Western Hemisphere combined. So for China to claim that they need payoff money from the United States because of all the harm we're doing them is just preposterous.
James, when you look at the situation with the Obama administration with 2 years left, and right now this man is going around Congress and has skirted Congress to use the military in actions in the Middle East, and today, of course, the United Nations being approached on more of a climate change theory. Hillary stood up a couple of weeks ago and said, oh, the greatest fear in the world is climate change. I'm more afraid if she takes over as president in 2016 and what she might do as president. What are your thoughts?
Well, of course, the federal government and particularly our Secretary of State and other diplomats and foreign policy experts, they're able to address more than one issue at a time. However, when you go around telling Russia that we're more concerned about global warming than their aggression in the Ukraine,
right,
when you go around saying that we're more concerned about global warming than what ISIS is doing in the Middle East, when you let Iran know that we're more concerned about global warming than their attempts to get a nuclear bomb, when you let North Korea know that we're more concerned about global warming than their proliferation of misconduct, this sends a very bad message. It tells people, go ahead and have this aggression against your neighbors, develop weapons of mass destruction, do whatever you want, because we're going to spend the brunt of our resources trying to tell people that global warming is the big foreign policy issue of our time, and that's very dangerous. We have far more pressing, more important matters, far more issues that are posing threats to the American people than this ginned up global warming scare.
Last thought this morning, James, I've got to ask you, the 6-year anniversary of will he or won't he, or how are we going to get the Keystone XL pipeline? It's still in limbo. Will that ever occur, or is it a dead horse, so to speak?
It'll occur if the political winds tell Barack Obama he can gain something from it. And that's about all that would make it happen. This is no longer, if it ever was, about energy policy, energy security, energy affordability, energy availability. It's all about politics, as has been the case for the past 6 years. It's not just the Obama administration, of course. This happens in every presidency. But I think it's reached new heights here, and it's disgusting. We need energy. We have a stable, friendly northern neighbor that would love to supply it to us. We need it, and for some reason, we are not going to take advantage of that. That's crazy.
I'm going to ask you to come back in the future again, James. You do a wonderful job. Thank you so much. Give us a little background real fast about the Heartland Institute, and how can people basically follow what's going on with your fight against global warming and other issues?
Well, the Heartland Institute is a public policy organization. We're nonpartisan. We do support free markets. We seek to identify and provide solutions, free market solutions to the challenges facing our society. We have a wealth of information on global warming and other topics at our website. It's heartland.org.
Very well said. James Taylor, thank you so much. God bless you for being on the program, and I'll be in touch. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You bet. Thank you. Really interesting conversation with James Taylor with the Heartland Institute, and I'm very appreciative that both he and James Lakely do a great job in thwarting the kooks and the crazies. And honestly, have you thought about this? You're paying exorbitant prices at the pump. You're going to be paying more in the form of electricity. You're going to be paying more and more and more. And these people, they've come right out and said, they do not want you owning a car. They do not want you to drive your children to Little League practice or go to the football game on Friday night. They do not want you to be able to ship a package, whether it's using FedEx or UPS. They do not want you getting in an airplane and possibly going back to see Aunt Martha and Uncle Fred in Boston, Massachusetts. They don't want you to have a car. They don't want you to do anything. They want you to just exist. That's all they want you to do. And you know what? They're winning because we're not speaking out. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. We're going to have the weather forecast real quick, and it's brought to you by Lennox Home Comfort Systems. Yep, gas furnaces, air conditioners, heat pumps. You and your family will enjoy the comfort. And all of this through Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Number to call, 678-0459. They're open 7:30 to 5:30, Monday through Fridays. And here is Michael Rogers with the weather.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers is at the ranch. A nice day for today. In fact, you're going to be nice until Friday, and make that Thursday. And you got rain. The forecast is going to carry into the weekend. So, we're working our way towards the middle of the week, and things are going to be rather nice. Thank you very much. 86 for the high today, 56 for the overnight low. So the weather's doing with you guys.
All right. Thank you very much. Brought to you by Lennox Home Comfort Systems. Whether, like I said, it's air conditioners, gas furnaces, or heat pumps, your family will enjoy the comfort through our friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Really, really nice people. Gina, are you by your microphone?
Yep.
There she is. She just, boy, that hurt.
I know.
When you think about it, from the time you got out of bed this morning until you arrived at the station, what energy sources do you rely on to get to work and get your son off to
Of course, hydroelectric dam, because that's where Rupert gets their electricity. So,
Okay.
of course, the city of Rupert. I require gasoline to get myself to work, get my son to school.
All right.
And then once I get to work, of course, again, we rely on hydroelectric power to power the radio station.
Okay, so without the use of hydroelectric power or dams or anything in that nature, you'd be unemployed.
Yes.
All right.
Absolutely.
And by being unemployed, then naturally their chain of thought is that you wouldn't have to have a car because you wouldn't be driving, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
So how would you exist? How are you going to buy your groceries? How are you going to pay for your shelter and your clothing? How, without energy, are you going to live a life of any kind of existence whatsoever?
We might as well move back into a cave.
You see, I said that facetiously months ago about living in a cave and burning buffalo dung, but basically when you look at these people, and they've come right out and said they don't want you driving a car, they do not want you to go to see somebody, they do not want you to ship any packages, because anytime they use FedEx or UPS, that's using energy. They do not want gas or coal-fired electricity plants. So what good is life? And that's what these people are aiming for. You can't tell me one single thing that you do all day long at your job that doesn't involve the use of energy.
There's nothing that I do in my daily life, especially here in my job, that does not require some sort of energy source.
That's right.
Period.
That's right.
You know, and so if they want us to basically go back into the dark ages, which is what they're asking to do, they don't want to do it. They don't want to abide by these rules, but they want us to.
Did you see that picture that was in the paper this morning? I was kind of hoping you had a chance to go and look at that picture. Look at it really close, and I'll go back to what I said to James Taylor. Most every single person within that picture, that camera lens, that you can kind of discern what they look like, etc., I would venture to say you won't find anybody in that picture under 30 years of age. And that's the mantra for these people that have had so much given to them. They haven't had to go out and really suffer. They probably, in most cases, had to raise a family like you are, and they just basically have had society provide for them.
Yes, they have had society provide for them. So if they want to go out and live in a cave without any electricity, with no hot water, you can't use a hairdryer. Oh, don't even think about using your curling iron. Forget the makeup. And all you have for electricity is fire. Mm-hmm. Go ahead, go for it. Let me know how that works for you, and come and talk to me in 2 months.
What about the medicines? What about medical science? What about your hospitals? What about your surgeries? What about your daily pills that you need, whether you have a heart problem or diabetes or whatever it might be? When you stop and think about everything that would be absolutely curtailed as far as medical research and research in general, Gina, we would revert back to the caveman days literally overnight.
Yeah, and that's what they're hoping for, because they want to control the masses. They don't want us to have anything. They want to have everything, but they do not want us to have anything at all.
I've sat here and I've thought about this a lot, and we've got a caller, but you know, every single thing we do, every single thing we wear, every single thing we eat is all because of energy.
Yep, and they want to dictate all of it.
Absolutely. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb.
Yes, sir.
You know, the bottom line, and the New Yorkers and Chicago, all those bigger cities, they think they don't need that. They don't, so that's why they vote crazy. They think that they don't even know where milk comes from or eggs. Half of them would probably quit eating eggs. I knew where they came from. But what gets me, they don't think far enough ahead to realize that if we went back to horses and started plowing these fields with horses, there wouldn't be enough food for those people in the cities.
That's right.
There wouldn't be any trucks hauling that food to them.
That's right.
So, my conclusion is that what they should do, the truckers, the railroads, well, they're not going to cooperate. They're making too much money. But the truckers and the people, they need to, somebody that's smarter than me and has more influence needs to organize a world or a nation strike and stop using gas for just one day.
Yep.
And just if they just get well enough organized, and if they would stop just for one day, these people would kick these environmentalists in the butt.
Dwayne, I could not have said it any better. One day would bring people down to their knees, tearing their hair out, gnashing of teeth, screaming at the top of their lungs, "Oh, what have we done?" And it would be the best thing that ever happened, because then they'd realize the stupidity of their ways.
Well, if people knew that one day was coming, there would be panic in the grocery stores, there would be panic in the drugstores. I mean, and that's a serious thing. There's people that, I take a medicine that if I miss 1 or 2 days, then I lose a kidney.
Absolutely. I understand.
You have to, so a lot of people have to have those medicines to stay alive.
I've got to do a commercial break here before the news, but Dwayne, thank you. It's good to hear from you. Thank you very much. God bless. Thank you. Don't forget Cameron and Siemens for your life insurance. Don't forget Cameron and Siemens for health insurance, retirement planning, and employee benefits. Don't forget Dean Cameron Todd Siemens, dedicated and responsive to your needs. Very accessible and devoted to serving others. All you have to do is pick up the phone and call for an appointment at 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Please get a hold of them today. We're going to take a little break, rest my ears, and then we're going to come back in about 6 minutes with Dr. History, and then at 10:30, Attorney Grant Gerber from Elko, Nevada, about a nationwide ride going all the way back to Washington, D.C. to protest the idiocy, another idiocy in this country, and that's trying to remove farmers and ranchers from the land. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. Don't go away. I'll be back in 6. Oh, good morning. Hour number 3, and this is Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And don't forget some of our great advertisers, too, like Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley, and our friends at Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service today. Call them at 734-6969. Oh, look what I have in my hot little hand. If Scotty's watching on camera, he'll know I have it in my hot little hand. And it's the menu for the special today at the Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. It is chicken and bacon pitas. Oh, that sounds good. Chicken and bacon pitas with choice of potato and super salad at the Chadwick Sports Grill. My goodness sakes, I mean, run, don't walk. Get over there at lunchtime at the Chadwick Sports Grill. Really nice people and a terrific menu for you and yours. Chicken and bacon pitas today special with potato and soup or salad. Okay, let's go right now to the phone line, and we hope he can hear us. I'm really having some problems here this morning with kind of a distortion on my end, and we can't figure it out if it's equipment here at my place or whatever. But good morning to Dr. History. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. I'm doing great. You do sound a little far away for some reason.
Yeah,
listening on the radio, you sounded fine.
Yeah, the radio sounds good, but boy, we're having a lot of trouble with the headsets and the feed line and everything, but it's good to have you on the program. Dr. History, or better known as dr-history.com. And by the way, how many countries have we severed relationships with since we talked last time?
25 different countries are now well aware of Zeb Bell, Dr. History, and stories from the Old West.
Oh, my goodness.
25,000 hits.
How much money are we making?
You know what? Your check is in the mail with mine.
Yeah, you know what? When I see you, I'll buy you a Coke.
Okay. We may have to split the cost. Or share the Coke, I don't know which.
Well, now tell me, you've always, every week, had some outstanding stories about the Old West and the old days, all the way from old gunfighters to mountain men to whatever. What are we going to talk about this week?
Well, Zeb, I want to talk about a famous gunfight at the OK Corral.
Oh, are you one of those?
I'm really not going to only just kind of refer to the gunfight at the OK Corral and what might have happened that didn't happen, and you'll see what I'm talking about as we go along.
Okay. Now, are we going to talk about the principal parties like the Earp family and the Clanton family and everything?
Earp family.
Okay.
That's primarily who we're going to be talking about.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Now, as we get started here, I want to first of all welcome our students who are listening in Peking University in Beijing, China, who are being taught English from Professor Jack Rose.
Oh, my goodness.
They are listening to our stories to learn proper English.
Do you realize that we are about ready to warp some young minds?
Well, this is what we call working English.
Okay.
And as you and I talk, hopefully it will help these students in Beijing to learn somewhat of, I guess you would call it, Western English as you and I talk about these various stories.
Absolutely. I'm just going to let you go ahead.
We want to welcome the students of Peking University.
Okay.
All right. Here we go. One day, one incident, one fight, can make a legend for a guy. Just being in the presence of history often is enough to make a person a historic figure in his own right. In other words, just being on hand. Now, on the other hand, not being in the right place at the right time, well, that just pretty much ruins it for whoever could have been or should have been but wasn't. So this is the case of Warren Earp. Now, I'm going to almost bet that almost nobody has heard of Warren Earp.
I didn't even know he was a brother.
No. Well, he was the youngest of 6 brothers.
Okay.
Warren was born in Iowa in 1855. Now, his brothers, from oldest to youngest, were Newton. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm going to bet nobody's heard of Newton because he was actually a half-brother born to the first wife of Nicholas Earp, and nobody's ever heard of him.
Well, wait a minute. They did because he had the nickname Fig.
Fig, yes, that's true. Now, the ones that are famous, James, Virgil, Wyatt, and Morgan.
Right.
But again, I'm going to bet hardly anybody's heard of Warren, but that's who we're going to talk about today. Again, he was in the wrong place at the wrong time and was, and that'll come to, we'll see that as we go along here.
Okay.
Well, the family moved to Colton, California in 1863. Warren grew up there, and he watched his brothers leave one by one. As I mentioned, he was the youngest in the family and saw these famous brothers just gradually leave home. Well, Warren remained in Colton, California, where his father was at various times both a judge and a saloon keeper, which was not unusual back in those days. Warren tended bar in the saloon and listened to the stories that spread as his brothers grew more and more famous as frontier lawmen. And now he must have been a little bit jealous. You can't help but think that, but what young man wouldn't be? If he was bombarded constantly by stories of the colorful, exciting adventures of his older brothers and the things that they were experiencing, well, they'd even tamed the wild cow town of Dodge City, Kansas. So when Warren heard that James, Virgil, Wyatt, and Morgan had moved to the silver mining boomtown of Tombstone, Arizona, he finally decided, it's time to head out. So he wasted no time getting there himself. And, think about this. The youngest brother, he thought, man, this is going to be exciting. Adventure is on the horizon. Mm-hmm. Well, Virgil, the most solid and dependable of the badge-toting brothers, he gave Warren not only a place to stay, but a job as well. Now, a veteran lawman by this time, Virgil was working as both a deputy U.S. Marshal and Tombstone's chief of police.
Okay.
Now, Warren had a room in Virgil's house, and he worked for him as a jailer, and sometimes he was also allowed to ride with the posses that Virgil raised whenever some crime was committed and there were lawbreakers out on the run. So he got to join a posse a few times. Now, some of these lawbreakers were rustlers from the infamous or famous, what we call the cowboy faction. Now, that's the ones that became the mortal enemies of the Earps and their friends, including Doc Holliday. And during one early clash with the Cowboys, Warren was a member of the posse, and he got shot in the leg.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the wound was serious enough to send him back to Colton, California to recuperate at the family home. Now, the gun battle in which Warren was injured took place in July of 1881. Then in October of 1881, this is when things got bad between the Earps and the Cowboys. This is when things exploded into what is probably the most famous gunfight in the history of the Old West, and of course, that's the gunfight at the OK Corral.
Right.
Now, there's been a lot of things written. A lot of volumes have been written about this shootout, but if they mention Warren Earp, they do so only in passing for a simple reason. He wasn't there.
Oh, really?
He was sitting in California recovering from his wound while Wyatt, Virgil, Morgan, and Doc Holliday were shooting it out with the Clantons and the McClurys.
Mm-hmm.
So poor Warren, he missed out. So it's impossible to know whether or not Warren would have taken part in the gunfight if he had been in Tombstone. Now, it seems probable that he would have, more than likely, considering that he had ridden in posses with his brothers and on previous occasions, and he was regarded as a fierce fighter even at this young stage of his life. Well, Warren Earp did not return to Tombstone until early in 1882, and he came back then because his brother Virgil had been ambushed and seriously wounded while walking across the street. Now, the blame for the shooting was laid on several of these cowboys that I mentioned, and the motive was clear. They wanted revenge for the death of their friends that had died in the Battle of the OK Corral.
Right.
So, anyway, the most serious wound cost Virgil the use of his left arm. Now, Warren stayed with Virgil and his wife, Allie, to help out with caring for his brother, and also it seemed inevitable that more violence would occur, and Warren pretty much now recovered from his wound. He had only a slight limp to show for it. He wanted to be on hand in case there was more trouble. Well, obviously the Cowboys were not through, and in March of 1882, while Wyatt and Morgan were playing pool in a billiard parlor, gunmen opened fire through the glass in the rear door. One of the shots passed through Morgan's body, mortally wounding him.
Dr. History has disappeared.
Okay, are we back?
Yeah, I didn't leave, but evidently you did.
A little problem with my phone here.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, here we go. So, as I mentioned, Wyatt and Morgan were playing pool, and the gunman opened fire through the glass of the rear door.
Right.
One of the shots passed through Morgan's body, mortally wounding him. Well, the assassins fled into the night, leaving Wyatt and his friends to carry Morgan's bloody body into another room of the billiard parlor. Warren rushed to the place when he heard that Morgan had been shot and arrived before his brother died, but there was nothing anyone could do to help, and after lingering for less than an hour, Morgan died. Now, Morgan's murder started Wyatt, Warren, Doc Holliday, and several of their friends on a vendetta that would come to be known as the Arizona War.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Warren, as I mentioned, he was kind of a tough character. He was known as the Tiger because of the ferocious way he threw himself into a fight and was on hand when enemies tried to ambush the train that was carrying Morgan's body back to California, along with Virgil and Allie. Well, Wyatt killed a guy by the name of Frank Stillwell in this clash. Now, Stillwell and other members of the Cowboy faction were about to open fire on the railroad car, so really he was just defending himself. So here we have Wyatt and Warren. They were the only Earps still capable of fighting, but they had the assistance of good old Doc Holliday, one of their good buddies, and several other pretty gun-handy companions as they set out to track down the rest of the men responsible for killing Morgan. Now, the Earps were now fugitives from law because they had served in the past, as lawmen, but arrest warrants were issued for them, charging them with the killing of this Frank Stillwell.
Right.
Even though, really, it was kind of a self-defense thing. Now, over the next few days, 3 members of the Cowboys died at the hands of the Earps and their friends. Well, in the eyes of many, Wyatt and Warren had crossed the line into being outlaws, and even some of those who had supported them in the past decided they had to be brought in. Well, a large party of lawmen started out on their trail. Now, the Earps still had friends, though, and when word reached them of the posse that had been sent out to apprehend them, Wyatt and Warren realized that, like it or not, their vendetta against the Cowboys was pretty much over. So the group decided to split up, with Wyatt, Warren, and Doc Holliday heading for Colorado. And basically, in the long run, none of them would ever be brought to trial for their actions. So, in fact, most authorities really admitted that the Earp's vengeance had been justified.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Wyatt and Warren decided to go back to California, and that was the closest thing they had to home. And Doc Holliday, he opted to stay behind in Colorado, and one of these days we'll do a story on Doc Holliday.
Okay.
But Wyatt never stayed in one place very long. He packed up and left California. Now Morgan was dead, Virgil was near crippled, Wyatt was gone off to the Yukon, and Warren's career as a peace officer had ended with him being an outlaw. So, again, nothing had quite worked out the way this youngest brother had expected. Well, finding it difficult to hold a job, Warren retreated into a life of drinking, gambling, and fighting, and spent most of his time in various saloons. And now Virgil, despite his almost useless left arm, was elected sheriff or marshal of Colton, California.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of prevailed upon Warren to settle down. I mean, he was the big brother and told Warren, you know, you need to settle down. But Warren still tended to spend a lot of time in saloons. And he was arrested for stabbing a man during a fight, and Warren was found not guilty when tried, but he figured he'd kind of worn out his welcome in California. So he left Colton, California, and headed for Arizona Territory. Okay, by now we're in 1894. Warren was in the town of Wilcox, where he was hired as a range detective by a local rancher.
Okay.
And he was supposed to track down rustlers and fence cutters and things like that. But so, like I said, he tended to get in trouble. He quarreled with a local cowhand by the name of Johnny Boyette. Now, keep that name in mind. We're going to talk about him for a minute here. Warren challenged Boyette to a gunfight, but the cowboy declined. I mean, the Earps still had a reputation.
Mm-hmm.
Well, 2 days later, Warren and Boyette ran into each other again. Well, Warren said, "Go get your gun," and immediately told the cowboy, who was unarmed, he said, "We'll fight it out." Well, Boyette insisted that he didn't want any trouble, so Boyette finally kind of stalked out of the place, and Warren left a few minutes later and went into an adjoining restaurant. Okay, here's where it gets a little exciting. A few minutes later, Boyette returned to the saloon carrying not one pistol, but two. So, not a good thing. Now, Warren had finally goaded Boyette to the point where the cowboy was willing to fight. As I mentioned, even though his opponent would be one of the famous Earp brothers. Well, Warren stepped into the doorway. Boyette saw him, jerked up both guns, and shot from each. Well, he must have been a little nervous because both slugs missed. Well, Boyette charged after Warren. His guns went off again, maybe by accident. Both went into the floor. So he shot 4 shots and missed all 4 times. Now, moving quickly, Warren left the restaurant by the front door and circled back around to the saloon's side entrance up behind Boyette. Well, Boyette whirled around to face him. And while he had been the one to challenge Boyette to a gunfight, Warren actually was unarmed. He didn't even have a gun.
Uh-oh.
Not a good thing when you challenge somebody.
No, stupid.
So, with his coat and vest open to show that he wasn't carrying a gun, he walked slowly towards Boyette, hoping to either calm him down or to get close enough to wrestle him to the ground and take away his guns. We really don't know. Well, whatever Warren had in mind, it didn't work. Boyette fired one more shot, striking Warren in the heart.
Oh, my goodness.
So Boyette was never indicted for the killing of Warren Earp. Now, kind of an interesting thing, though, Boyette disappeared soon after the incident.
Oh, really?
Now, rumors circulated that Wyatt and Virgil, seeing their youngest brother killed by this guy, but there's no proof, but Boyette disappeared, and knowing Wyatt and Virgil, they may have just taken care of him.
This is really an interesting twist to this story because it solidifies so many things about the Old West. Number one, they were really rotten shots.
That's right.
Number two, Hollywood took a bunch of facts from various times and places in the Old West, and they compiled the movie of Wyatt Earp. And the one scene in the movie that you were talking about where Morgan was shot, I think they were in a pool hall, you said?
Yeah.
All right, now that all supposedly in the movie of Wyatt Earp took place before the fight at the OK Corral.
Well, we mentioned before, Hollywood has romanticized and changed, and for me, a good movie is one that's accurate to the dress, the styles, the facts. the type of saddles they had, the clothes they wore. Those are the kind of shows that I enjoy watching.
Oh, I agree with you. And then there was another aspect that you were talking about with the cowboys wearing the red scarves. I remember that from the movie. Kevin Costner starred in that version of Wyatt Earp, and I can't remember what they called themselves. They all wore those red bandanas tied around their belt like a sash or whatever, and I can't remember what they called that gang.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. But, you know, again, you think about Warren Earp all his life.
Yeah.
Warren Earp lived in the shadow of his famous older brothers.
Yeah.
And if not for the leg wound that sent him home to California to recuperate, in all probability, he would have walked down the streets of Tombstone on that famous day along with Wyatt, Virgil, Morgan, and Doc. He shared all the dangers with them before and after the gunfight at the OK Corral. But by missing that one event, he pretty much became an afterthought or a footnote to those who chronicled that bloody battle at Tombstone.
Yeah, and one other thing, too, and you've said this on previous programs, and I've followed up on this, too. Through all the supposed gun battles that Wyatt Earp went through in his history as a lawman and a not-so-lawful man, he was never shot or even nicked.
Yeah. It's amazing, again, and we've talked about various outlaws, various law people, sheriffs, marshals, that really did a lot more for the Old West than did the Earps and some of these other guys, Jesse James. They were more famous, more wanted in more parts of the country, or followed outlaws for days or months to track down their man, but nobody's ever heard of some of these guys, and that's why I try to bring out some of those stories of people, and again, I'm going to bet that hardly anybody has ever heard of Warren Earp, let alone Newton.
Well, yeah, and then nobody's ever heard of the poorest shot in the West, Johnny Boyette.
Well, he must have been a poor shot, and he must not have been very careful. Of course, you know, if you've got a couple of the Earp brothers after you, I have a feeling it doesn't matter where you went to hide. I don't think you could stay hidden. So I think Boyette met his end on a lonely trail somewhere, or perhaps sleeping in a hotel room or something. But he was no longer heard of.
You know, one of the stories we ought to do in the future, and we're almost out of time here, but I was kidding about how poor shots they were in general. And the best shots in the Old West, according to everything I've read, were the gamblers. They were pretty doggone good with a gun.
Yes. And I did a story a year or two ago about a particular sharpshooter who... and I explained the technique that he used for being a deadly shot. Mm-hmm. And it's different than from what you see on TV.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, that was interesting because when you said Warren Earp, I'm sitting there going, Warren Earp? I've never heard of a Warren Earp before, for heaven's sakes.
Well, yeah, one of the Earp brothers that, again, was just a footnote in history and... maybe not even hardly a footnote. Poor old Warren.
It was hard enough having the last name Earp. I mean, that doesn't strike fear in people's hearts when you say, I'm an Earp.
Well, when you say something like Butch Cassidy or Jesse James or the Sundance Kid.
Right.
Those kind of can put a little fear into your heart, but Earp?
Yeah, you go up to somebody and say, what's your name? Earp, and they go, oh, excuse you.
Yeah.
I got to run, but that was a good story, and we ought to do a little tribute to, once again, the poorest shot in the West, Johnny Boyette. Doggone, think where he would be today if he wouldn't have shot so many times and missed.
That's right.
There you go. Doctor of History, better known now, and Peking University has listened to this radio program, and now they know all about the Earp brothers. They know all about the OK Corral, and they know all about if you're going to pick up an old Colt 45, you better learn how to shoot it. That son of a gun, those guns really kick. That's why they didn't hit a lot of things.
Well, Well, I guess, and you talk about buck fever. I think he had ERP fever.
And, really, they didn't get that far away. Anytime they were in a shootout or something, they were literally not more than sometimes 6 or 7 feet away from each other.
Yeah.
And they still missed.
And, to his credit, the 5th shot he shot did its job.
Well, sooner or later, the law of averages is going to get something.
Especially if it hits the guy in the heart.
There you go. Dr-History.com, better known as Dr. Ken Turner. Thank you. Excellent program this morning. Appreciate it.
All right. You have a good day, Zeb.
God bless you, man. Thanks.
Bye.
Warren Earp. Oh, they'll never make a TV show about him. Hey, don't forget Lennox Home Comfort Systems. Ramsey Heating and Electric offering rebates on qualified home comfort systems, whether it's a gas furnace, air conditioner, or a heat pump. You and your family will enjoy the comfort. Call 678-0459, and Ramsey's can tell you all about how to save money. That's right. At Ramsey's, they sell warm winters and cool summers and Lennox Home Comfort Systems. Ramsey Heating and Electric. We are going to take a little break for a couple of minutes and then come back with attorney in Elko, Doctor. I'm still thinking of Dr. History. We're going to talk to attorney Grant Gerber on the ride from California all the way to Washington, D.C. You stay tuned.
And now back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KVAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Oh, thank you very much and welcome back. And on Thursdays, we have a segment on my program called School Days in Cassia County, and I'm very blessed to have 2 sponsors of that program that do a wonderful job. A Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley, and they've got a new selection of cozy blankets from just $10 to keep the little ones warm. Plus, they've got hundreds of new outfits for the young folks and all set for fall and winter. And don't forget, they've got layaway toys, books, puzzles, games for the holidays, everything right there at A Child's World, 1308 Overland in Burley. And also, we want to say thank you very much to the Ambulatory Surgery Center at 1344 Highland Drive in Burley. Life-saving colonoscopies. Very important that we all are checked out, believe me, and they're performed right there by an outstanding surgeon at the Ambulatory Surgery Center in Burley on Highland Avenue. Don't forget, too, if you need ear tubes, tonsils removed, dental procedures, needing anesthesia, all taken care of right there at the Ambulatory Surgery Center. Call today and find out more. 677-8888. 677-8888. Ambulatory Surgery Center and A Child's World, bringing you School Days in Cassia County. Right now, we're going to go to the phone lines, and we have a very dear friend of ours on the line, and he, I think, is just one day away from starting a big ride from coast to coast, California, all the way back to Washington, D.C., on the Grass March Cowboy Express. Regulation without representation is tyranny, and he's here to tell us all about it. Grant Gerber, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. And we're riding out of the Pacific Ocean. There on the coast on the 26th. I guess that's 2 days from now.
Mm-hmm.
We are looking forward to going. We got lots of good hard-riding cowboys and cowgirls and lots of good legged-up horses, and we're going to go at a lope the whole way. We're going to be going approximately 150 to 160 miles a day. And so it's going to be a long, hard ride, but we're going.
All right, now, Grant, let me ask you this. This is a great idea, and you're going to be literally galloping right out of the ocean and heading across the country to the East Coast. What about the route? I mean, that had to be a lot of work to get everything verified, that you could take horses, etc. Who was in charge of making sure that everything's going to team up with all these horses along the route?
Jeff Jones with Outlaw Bronx. He and his wife, Katie. When we went into Carson City, that 300-mile ride, Jeff volunteered and he was exceptionally helpful. So when we got ready to do this, I got in got a little money raised and hired him to be in charge, because we had to have somebody that was full-time in it, and up until it and now. And so he and Katie are from out in Lamoille, and he has a little rodeo stock contracting business, and he runs some cattle and has some leased ground. But we just got a great group of guys going, and one of the most Arlo Crutcher is going. He's off of the Fort McDermott Indian Reservation, and the BLM just kicked him off of his range, and so he decided he wanted to go and help people realize that the BLM is poking at everybody.
All right. Now, Grant, let's talk a little bit about the purpose of this ride. This isn't just to highlight the fact that you can go coast to coast to horseback. This is for a purpose to really show that the BLM and a lot of our rights are being taken away. The federal government trying to stop land usage on public lands. Give us the basics as to why you're going to put this ride on.
Well, you go back to 1930, and Gandhi rode from, or they walked to the sea to distill some salt, because the British government had a complete monopoly on the salt in India. If a family went to the ocean and distilled a little salt for their family, they'd throw them in jail. Well, in Nevada, the federal government has a monopoly on the grass, and the people that settled this country, in cooperation with the Indians, are now being driven off that land by unelected bureaucrats. And we like to point out that in the case of Douglas Furtado, the BLM manager there, if everybody in the state of Nevada voted to get him fired, if every county commission wanted him out, if the entire state legislature and the governor wanted him out, we could not do it. He works for President Obama, and if President Obama doesn't want him out, we can't get rid of him. That's why we're going to Congress to get help, because the Congress could make changes so that out-of-control bureaucrats like that are making 100% cuts on ranchers and areas where there's 2 feet of grass, like there is down there in the Battle Mountain area. It's just improper, and we have to change the system.
All right.
And so that's why we're riding.
Okay, now, what about the general public? Now, you and I have been on this program about 2 or 3 times, and we've also had Mrs. Dan Filippini on our program. Eddie Ann's been on here. What about various states? How are you getting other people involved, whether it's Idaho, whether it's Nevada, whether it's Wyoming? How are other people getting involved in this ride?
Well, shows like yours are extremely important. We also have a website. It's www.grassmarchcowboyexpress.com, and we're getting the information out there. We also have a Facebook page with the same name, and then we're doing rallies across the country. And then people like Michael Martin Murphy have been carrying our message. He was at a big conference in Atlanta over the weekend, and he spoke to 500 leaders of different from different areas. And the speaker right after him was former Governor Mike Huckabee, and apparently Michael Martin Murphy got a standing ovation when he explained about the Grass March Cowboy Express, what we were doing. So we're every way possible, we're trying to get this information out, and we're having some success doing it.
All right, now, Grant, when you take off on Thursday, I believe it is, isn't it? Yeah, or Friday. Pardon me.
Friday morning.
And you start going across not only California and into Nevada, etc. Can other people, can they join up with you, and can they ride, or how do they go about making the connection with their horses, and then also make a connection for possible transportation? I mean, how can other people get involved?
Well, number one, we'd really like some Idaho people. We don't have any Idahoans connected up with us. We got people from lots of the other states of the West, but not Idaho yet. But they could get on the website, and there's a form to an application to be able to ride, and if they or they can call us, and we would love to fit them in. Anywhere across Nevada, Utah, Wyoming, we're and what we would really love to have is at least one rider, and with a couple of horses, three horses that would commit to ride with us all the way to Washington. And if they didn't have time to get together with us to start from California, they could hook up with us anywhere along the route and go with us all the way. And what would really make us happy is if they bring a motorhome. We got a motorhome donated yesterday, but we still need one more motorhome.
Okay.
Other than that, we've got pickups and horse trailers, and we're in pretty good shape that way. We got lots of cowboys and cowgirls, and we got our team of mules to pull our chuck wagon up Pennsylvania Avenue to the Capitol, and we're pretty well. We're just going good. Plus, but we do need more. We need funds for fuel and other costs that we've got along the way. But we're doing pretty good, and they're heading out. And anybody that's in the Salt Lake City area or could come down to it. Waddy Mitchell and some of his friends are putting on a fundraiser concert thing for us on the 2nd of October at the Utah State Fairgrounds.
Okay.
And so that'll be starting sometime in the evening.
All right, now let me ask you this, Grant. It looks like on the map that I have here, you're going to follow, it looks like Interstate 80 all the way back to the East Coast. Is that correct?
We go on the Interstate 80 to Cheyenne.
I see.
Then when we hit Cheyenne, we drop down through a corner of Colorado, just outside of Denver. Stay out just outside of Denver, and then we go into Kansas, and from there we follow the I-70 on in.
Okay.
And we're going to get diverted off sometimes. We don't know how often. We're still. Some of the departments of transportation are really slow getting back to us, but so far everybody's been helpful. But from and then we'll cross into Missouri at Kansas City, and then go across Kansas, the bottom part of Illinois into Indiana. And then we'll end up into West Virginia, and we'll be in West Virginia for quite a while. And Katie Jones has got lots of friends in West Virginia and that part of the country, and they're helping us across. So everywhere we go, we're getting people signing up to help, and it's getting pretty hectic, but we're getting it done.
All right, now let me ask you this: 2,800 miles roughly, and so you're going
closer to 3,000 by the time we end up with the some of the detours that we already know we have to make.
All right, now 3,000 miles. When do you have, as an ETA, an estimated time of arrival in Washington to present this petition to the president?
Everything goes right. We don't hit bad weather sometime around the 16th or 17th of October.
Okay. Now,
20 days.
What's going to happen there? Tell us a little bit about what's going to happen when you do get to Washington and cruise down Pennsylvania Avenue.
Well, we don't expect a tremendous amount we don't expect President Obama to come out and meet us. We don't expect Harry Reid to come out and meet us. But what we do expect is these petitions that we're gathering, and we're now gathering them from a lot of different counties. And it's kind of the first time that this has ever been done that I'm aware of. It's kind of like when John Adams wrote the Braintree instructions, and 40 towns in Massachusetts then wrote up their own instructions and sent them to the legislature. Well, we are doing basically the same thing, and we are getting petitions in from all kinds of counties. We don't have any in from Idaho yet, but basically the petitions are they cover all of the issues that a county would not be, is not happy with the federal government for some reason. Everything from endangered species to the attempt by the EPA to gain control of all of our water, to wild horses, to the fires that are caused because of the reduction in grazing. And we're getting petitions out of the Indian tribes in Nevada that basically do the same thing. The tribes are upset that they've reduced or stopped grazing, and as a result, there's all the fires, burns up their sacred medicinal plants, their the wildlife, and so it's becoming a growing group of various entities out there, counties, towns, organizations, tribes, and just individuals that are just fed up with the way the federal government operates.
All right, well, I just want to jump in there and say that, like I said earlier, regulation without representation is tyranny. And Grant, you've done so much. I mean, you've been involved in the sage grouse issue, and you've been involved in other issues. This ride, how much of the ride are you personally going to partake of?
I'm going to ride some every day. I'm taking 3 horses with me, and on days when, if we're short riders and horses, I can go 45 miles without too much pressure, without too much trouble, and if I had to, I could go 60. Back when I was a boy, I used to ride that far, and in fact, when we went into Carson City in May, there were the last day we were down to 3 of us with 9 head of horses, and we had to go 125 miles, and we ended up 2 or 3 hours earlier than before dark. So, and I was still feeling good, and my horses were still doing okay. We could have gone further.
All right. Now, is there a telephone number where people can call right now if they want to be not only contributing money but also be a part of this ride? What number can they call?
Well, I can't remember Katie's number, but they could call me at 775-934-7507.
Okay. And
or they could call my law office and leave a message.
Okay.
Which is at 775-738-9258.
Okay, now I've got those numbers here in my office. And is there anything else that you want to mention before I let you go? Because I know the ride's going to start day after tomorrow.
Well, by getting on the internet, they could see the article in the Elko Daily Free Press this morning, where Lynn Tamara is featured. She's one of the ranch wives, and she and Eddie Ann Filippini were featured in it, and explaining why they're going.
Okay.
And, that's a good article. And then by going to our website, all of the articles out of the Elko Daily Free Press are put in there, and it talks about the connection with Gandhi and and there's great pictures of all the grass that's 2 feet tall that the BLM doesn't want grazed off. Apparently they want to burn it.
All right. Well, listen, Grant, I've got to run, but I just want to say a big salute to you and everybody else for being involved in this Grass March Cowboy Express from sea to shining sea, all the way from California back to Washington, D.C., and God's blessings. Now, one thing I want you to do is if you're going to be on the ride, call me periodically on your cell phone so that we can make arrangements to get you on the air and find out how the ride's going.
I'll do that, and even though this is extremely serious, we're making it a lot of fun. We got our cowboy camp. We're going to be setting up every night, inviting any of the local politicians to come have dinner or breakfast with us, and going to be telling this story on coast to coast.
All right, Grant Gerber, I absolutely tip my resistol to you and say thank you for a job well done, and we'll look forward to having more on this as the ride progresses.
Well, thank you so much, Zeb, and I'll look forward to getting on your show again and encourage some Idahoans to get involved. Okay?
All right. Thank you, Grant. Appreciate it very much. God bless you, man. Thanks.
Okay. We'll see you. Bye.
You betcha. All I can say is that this man has dedicated a lot of time and effort, along with many others. I know Jess and Katie Jones, and I know many others that are involved in this ride, to draw attention to the fact that they feel like they're being pushed off the land. They feel like families are losing their heritage. And God bless Grant and everybody else in this great big Grass March Cowboy Express, going from literally out of the surf in California, I think Bodigo Bay, all the way back to Washington, D.C. And we'll follow that ride as it goes across America. Time for the weather. We've got to get that in real quick. And the weather is brought to you this hour by Scarro's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. And they're always selling taste, one bite at a time. Locally owned custom meat processor for over 20 years. And don't forget, for your prized wild game, let their experience create meat from your hard work and enjoy for the months to come. There's a variety of cuts to break into your wild game, and they're just the experts at this. So please remember Scarro's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. The number 324-7657, selling taste one bite at a time. Here now, Michael Rogers' weather.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers is at the ranch. A nice day for today. In fact, you're going to be nice until Friday, and I make that Thursday. And you got rain. The forecast is going to carry into the weekend. So, we're working our way toward the middle of the week, and things are going to be rather nice. Thank you very much. 86 for the high today, 56 for the overnight low. For the weather, still what do you got?
All right. Thank you very much, Michael Rogers. Weather.com. Scarro's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome, 324-7657. They are selling taste one bite at a time. Absolutely delicious. Oh, let's see what else have we got cooking here. Got some time for some calls. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. What in the world was this story in the Times News this morning about a woman in Sandpoint that was charged with a felony for allegedly, after she was arrested, being put in the police car and chewing up the upholstery of the patrol car seat? What? I'm not kidding you. Stacy Ann Spence, 42 years of age, was charged late last week with felony malicious injury to property because she literally ate the upholstery in the police car. There's a hungry old girl, I'll tell you. Anyway, I don't know what she was arrested for. It doesn't say for sure. But then she made matters worse because once she got in the police car, she started chomping on the back seat and eating up the upholstery. Not good. And now she's really in trouble. Don't forget your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you with the best in tires during their big tire sale, and all the tires are on sale, all the different tread designs, whether it's the Eclipse tire or the Open Country AT2, doesn't make any difference. They're all on sale, and the very best of tires for your type of driving, along with the best in brake service, the best in front end alignments and shocks and struts, and of course batteries. It's all there with all 7 locations. They really, really do the best job in the world. Brake service extraordinaire, if I didn't mention that. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family and Paul, John on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley. Nobody does it better than your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. You stop in and see them today. Good program tomorrow, too. We're looking forward to Wednesday, and I just received word just minutes ago that at 8:30 tomorrow morning we're expecting to have a call from Mike Crapo, our United States Senator, and he's going to be on the air at 8:30. And so we're going to get a chance to ask him about what's happening with Obama skirting Congress and going ahead with the airstrikes in Syria. We're going to get a chance to ask him about what he thinks about ISIS and the control of ISIS without ground troops. We're going to talk to him about a lot of things in a very short period of time. We usually only have about 10 to 12 minutes, and so I'll try to get as many questions in as I can. And then we're also going to have Doug Johnson from Colorado, and we are working on possibly getting Pete Hegseth. You see him on television all the time with the Concerned Veterans of America, and if we can't get Pete because of his schedule, we're going to try to get one of the other folks that work with Pete, and again talk more about ground troops, the cutbacks in the military, and everything that's going on in the Middle East. So tune in tomorrow morning at 8:06, where we'll ride the horse again for 3 hours right here on Zeb at the Ranch from 8:06 to 11 o'clock, right here on K-Bar 1230, and then streaming live on the net, zebbell.com. The way things were are the way things ought to be. We'll see you then.